everyone. Welcome to News Extra. Today we're talking about the annual Light of Hope event, which benefits CapStone Child Advocacy Center, as well as CASA, which stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates. And I have Monica Shambaugh with me from CapStone, as well as Andrea Rein from CASA. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks.
Two very important organizations dealing specifically with children, especially as they are involved with the court systems specifically. But we have the annual Light of Hope coming up in September, but a little bit different this year for the 11th annual. Explain that, if you would.
Right. It is our 11th annual Light of Hope event. This year it's on September 5th, and we're hosting it at the Gering Civic Center. Normally in the past we've done a breakfast. This year we're planning on doing it in the evening. We're starting at 5:30 with a business after hours.
Combined with the Chamber of Commerce.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then at 6:30 our main speaker, Laura Schroff, will get up and speak about her book and her experiences with a young man named Maurice. The title of the book is An Invisible Thread. And it's just about a chance encounter with a young man on the streets of New York City. How their relationship has evolved over time, how she's made a difference in his life just through random acts of kindness.
Okay. And of course, with their business after hours event, there's usually some sort of dinner involved, or
Right.
at least hors d'oeuvres or something along those lines.
We are. So from 5:30 to about 6:15, 6:20, Andrea and her staff and her board, myself, my staff, and my board will be out talking about CapStone and CASA and what we do, throughout the panhandle of Nebraska. And then at about 6:15 or so, we'll have everybody come in. We'll have cash bars at the Civic Center, as well as food. So we'll have sandwiches and chips and salads, and we'll want them to sit down, and then Andrea and I will do a little talking about our agencies, very brief, because we want to give Laura Schroff the floor. So,
Well, speaking about talking about both agencies, we'll come back on News Extra in just a moment and do just that. And we're back on News Extra. We're talking about the 11th annual Light of Hope event coming up in September to benefit CapStone and CASA. And I have Monica Shambaugh with me, who represents CapStone, as well as Andrea Rein with CASA. Thank you very much again for joining us today.
thanks for having us.
Both organizations very involved with children, especially when it comes to being children that have contact with the criminal justice system, needing advocacy in even civil cases as well. Talk a little bit about what CapStone does.
Okay. Well, we're the Child Advocacy Center. We're one of 7 in the state of Nebraska. We have forensic interviewers that are trained specifically to interview children, and we usually interview children between the ages of 3 and 18 who have become part of either an intake through the Department of Health and Human Services, or law enforcement has been contacted because of something that may have happened. So it may have been because of a warrant's been served at the home. There may be drugs involved in the home. Those children may be part of a kidnapping or physical or sexual abuse. And so those children are brought to the Advocacy Center. We do the forensic interview for that child, and then that forensic interview is then supplied to DHHS and to law enforcement for them to go out and to work the case, to be able to supply that case to the county attorney's office
For determination of if
whether or
charges
not,
or whatever may need to be
correct.
filed.
And then I also have a couple of gals that work with us that do advocacy, so they work with the families to get those kids into counseling if that's something. And we also help with counseling for the non-offending caregivers. So,
Okay.
and then we also supply hair tests for the Department of Health and Human Services if those are warranted through the courts. So,
Sure. And of course, once the kids do have contact and are involved with the court system, that's where CASA
Correct.
steps in specifically,
Right.
providing advocacy and I assume guardian ad litem type of services involved with the courts a little bit.
Similar. We are a non-legal party
Sure.
in everything. So when our volunteers come in, they go through 30 hours of a national curriculum before they start volunteering for our program. Once a case comes in and we have an available volunteer, a judge will assign a CASA volunteer to work with a child or children, depending on how many are in that family, From there, we really get to know the child, their background, their family life, what has brought them into the system. We visit with school teachers, if they're in counseling, if they're in daycare providers. We visit with foster families. We really get the big picture of what's going on with that child. Our main focus, though, is working with the children, getting to know them, their wants, their needs. From there, we write reports to the court on recommendations on what we think is in the best interest of that child.
Yeah, and those are the reports that go to the guardian ad litem in those
Correct.
cases, and they
And
make that
everybody
presentation
involved.
to the judge and to the court.
Right.
Of course, the Light of Hope event doesn't take place in a vacuum. You need to have sponsors for things like such as that.
Absolutely.
And tell me how somebody can get involved with this.
Well, we're always looking for corporate sponsors, and we have corporate tables that go along with that. And we'll take any other type of sponsor as well. This is a free event, so we do not sell tickets. We, CASA and CapStone, depend on people coming to our events and then maybe giving us
Maybe
a
making a
couple
donation.
bucks,
Sure.
giving a donation for to help us out a little bit along the way. So
Yeah, absolutely.
and that's why we want to fill all the seats. So we're looking, for 450, 500 people to listen to Laura Schroff and have just a great event. Looking forward to this.
Which, of course, is coming up in September.
Yes.
Give us the details on that again, if you would.
September 5th, it starts at 5:30 at the Gering Civic Center.
Okay, at the Gering Civic Center, starting at 5:30, and then at about 6:30 or so, the featured speaker will be taking the stage to talk about her book and the story behind it. An Invisible Thread is the title of that book. Some very interesting information and important information that will be available during the Light of Hope event.
Right, and if people want a seat, want to be guaranteed a seat, if they would just call the CapStone Child Advocacy Center, 632-7274, we can guarantee you a seat.
And if somebody wants to get a hold of CASA,
That number is 672-2922.
fantastic. Monica, Andrea, thank you very much for joining us on News Extra today.
Thanks.
Thank you.